Good morning, all, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on Capturing Hearts and Minds, your guide to employee engagement. This webinar is being done in partnership with Xoxoday, and I am Manisha from People Matters. And before moving on to the agenda for the day, let me give you a brief about the topic. As the world gets redefined by technology, capturing the hearts and mind of employees with a human touch is becoming extremely difficult, how much ever simple it may sound. With the changing workplaces and the ways of working, how can HR leaders reinvent their practices that not only connect with the employees but also enable them to enhance productivity and commitment to the organization? Revolving around this, today's discussion, organized by Xoxoday and People Matters, aims to provide a guide to solve this critical issue. The key discussion pointers of this webinar shall be: understanding the expectation of today's workforce. What are some of the tips and tricks that organizations can leverage to capture employees' heart and mind? What are those key challenges that HR leaders should be aware of while working towards employee engagement, and how to overcome those? Some exciting stories of how organizations have really redefined employee engagement by reinventing their practices, keeping employees at the center. Let me now introduce to you the speakers for the webinar. We have the privilege of having with us Abhishek Kumar, co-founder Xoxoday. Abhishek Kumar is a graduate from IIT Bombay. He is a serial entrepreneur and has created products in healthcare, supply chain, and finance domain. He has worked with multiple brands like Manhattan Associates, Magma, Equifax in the past, but switched to entrepreneurship because his true passion lied in entrepreneurship. He has founded companies like Fraudulent Technologies and has been actively mentoring startups with the product ideology. We also have the privilege of having with us Debashrita Patnaik, Director, Talent, Rewards and Performance at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. In a career spanning more than 11 years, Debashrita has gained diverse HR experience handling multiple geographies with key focus on international compensation, talent mobility, policies, performance management, and organizational design. In her current role at Dr. Reddy's, she leads the Center of Excellence for Compensation and Benefits, Performance, and Talent Management with a special focus on senior talent. Our partners for today's webinar is Xoxoday. Xoxoday, formerly known as Gift XOXO and Frogo, was started in 2012 and is been seed funded by Mahindra Group and Kshatriya Ventures. It aims to democratize the last mile activity and industry experience. Xoxoday currently has 5,000 hosts selling over 10,000 experiences. These experiences can be consumed by enterprises for various reward programs like long service anniversaries, weddings, new employee joinings, parenthood, birthdays, and many more. Xoxoday has also certified SaaS-based portal to digitize rewards for employees, clients, and business partners. We have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of the webinar. For those watching live, you can submit your questions at any time during the presentation through the Q&A section. We will try to respond to as many questions as time allows. We have an exciting topic to discuss in this webinar today, so without any further delay, let me now invite Debashrita to take over. Over to you, Debashrita.
Thank you, Manisha. You've already set the context, and a very good morning to all of you, all the participants. Let me just start with explaining what is the expectation of today's workforce. Understanding the expectation of today's workforce. Today we are in a very interesting era. We have actually 5 generations of people working side by side. For the first time in history, we will have 5 generations. By 2020, 5 generations will be working together, which is the silent generation, baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Now, how do we handle this kind of situation when there are people from different generations working together? They have dramatically different work styles, expectations, and performance goals and personal time needs. They have to be handled differently. Now, what kind of benefits, what kind of work environment, what kind of career growth, what kind of policies and practices we should have in the company so that this generation, that all the generations can be handled together. Now, I will just move on, just explaining to you what are the employees from these different generations saying. Let me start with Gen Y. What are the needs for the Gen Y? They want more flexibility, they want more work-life balances, they want more of personal development opportunities. If you look at Gen X again has different set of needs. Similarly, baby boomers. Now, all these people have been brought up or basically born in a different era altogether, and based on that needs have been shaped up. At a first glance, creating employee engagement strategy with such a diverse workforce may seem tricky, but there are some inherent expectations that are common to every employee, irrespective of their age, gender, experiences. So the expectations which this kind of people have all can be set into 5 kinds of things. So the best employers recognize that to productively engage their employees, they need to help employees achieve their personal me goals and dreams on one hand, while simultaneously empowering them to solve the more generalized we worries about the company and the broader community. So I have actually picked up a very interesting model which is from the HBR. It's the Me to V Continuum. Now, if you look at, here's what the Me to V Continuum is about and how it can be geared up to be used for the different generation, that is baby boomers, Gen X and millennials. Let us look at the expectations of each of these, expectations from each of, what are the 5 expectations employees have. Now, the first expectation, if I see, it's basically, don't let me down. Every employee says, don't let me down. Consider me as I am. Every employee wants to work for a company they trust and that delivers value to them individually. They need fair salary benefits. They need human policies. They need praise, acknowledgement, and they want to have a culture where it's more of trusting, there's positivity around, it's healthy, and there's less stress of the work environment. That is a requirement for all generations. So this is something which is common for all generations. Similarly, if I look at the next part, which is mine, it's about enrichment. It's about enriching my career. Employees want their companies to genuinely invest in their personal development well-being. They may be in different generations, but they need supportive managers. They don't basically want to work with faceless bosses. They want a face to a boss. They want rewards. They want egalitarian organization structures. They want professional development. Even if someone is at a fag end of the career, they would want some personal professional development. People want the organization to invest in them. So they want enrichment in their careers. That's the second thing. That's the mind part of it. Then the third part, expectation, is about hours, which is about treating them with fairness. All employees expect that they should be treated fairly and behave ethically and proactively in their business practices. They want to work for organizations which actually have very robust business practices, which are very ethical, which exhibit human traits. The businesses exhibit human traits and are honest about their shortcomings, providing the employees with what is called a more holistic kind of thing, where employees are clear about what the organization is about, and they actually basically see that this is the organization I want to work for. So that is the main part in this. Then about community. Everyone wants to have some kind of belongingness. They want to have a network. They want to be connected to different internal networks. At different career stages, employees will still want to need to network with other people in the other colleagues in the organization, even with the external world. So that's basically about us. Every employee has that need. Last but not the least is about we. What kind of it is basically about making me bigger than I am, looking towards what I can contribute back to society, what can I do about the overall society in terms of CSR or any other thing. So those are basically what kind of shared success or sense of success can I create. These are the basic 5 expectations which I wanted to share. It's a very interesting model. So this is what puts actually all the generations together under one kind of umbrella. So though we have to customize our practices to address all the generations, but we can look at the 5 expectations that employees across generations will have. And around this, we can basically plan our engagement agenda or practices which we want to build. Now let's understand. Now we know the expectations what employees have. We understand there are 5 generations, but we understand that the expectations across generations are some 5 kind of things which we have just seen in the HBR slide. And then moving to what kind of challenges are there in the challenges being faced by HR today in running engagement agenda. I've actually picked up 3 main challenges which we've seen in various on my research, in my own experience in my organization as well as in other organizations, and based on discussions with various forums, research studies and all. Main one is basically engagement. What people fear. Engagement may be necessary, but our organization has other priorities. These are organizations who feel that investment in engagement initiatives bring low return. However, low returns may be a problem only in the short run. If you look at a long run, actually engagement is something which will actually improve our employee performance. One of the studies which CB has done, it shows that there's a 46% employee performance linkage that can be explained through engagement. Because of engagement, employee performance has improved, and that's 46% employee performance can be explained through the engagement data. Similarly, let's look at the second one, which is engagement is what's the other roadblock which HR faces. Engagement is critical, but we don't know what levers to measure. This is a major concern for all of the heads of engagements. It is about predictiveness of the engagement survey data. Now, people run different engagement surveys. They can have in-house surveys. They can run through different partners. But what kind of engagement data they get and how do they actually use those levers? That's another worry. So 43% of the HR executives believe that employee engagement is a critical aspect for building a great workplace. But only 6% use surveys that effectively measure this engagement. That's why they are not clear in terms of how to use this leverage, how to leverage on this engagement data, and don't know how to measure it. The third one is basically engagement is critical and data is being tracked, but we are not able to act on the data. Now here the problem is basically buy-in from stakeholders. I have the data. I have actually rolled out an engagement initiative, and I have the data on what are the areas I need to focus on, but how do I actually take it to my stakeholders and get a buy-in from them? Get a buy-in from them that if I roll out these engagement initiatives, I will be able to make an impact in the organization. That's another main issue which is coming up, and which actually is one of the main problems of any engagement head or HR colleagues across. Many of your people have faced similar things in your organization. So there is a time constraint and inability to link engagement with the business goals. And this is one of the top challenges which most of the engagement heads or HR colleagues across the organizations are facing. So this is something which we have seen in many organizations. I also looked at an interesting data, which is more from, this is again a CB study, looking at what are the top barriers preventing organizations from effectively working in engagement programs. The top 3 to 4 things which we came up with basically was lack of stakeholder support, which we also saw in the earlier slide I mentioned about it. There is not enough time to implement engagement plans. Now people have different agenda and all, so they feel that engagement, this is more of an HR agenda. Why should I? So it's the managers need to actually focus on the engagement agenda, and they are the people managers who need to drive the agenda. But for them, engagement is not that important. They feel that it's something HR agenda which HR needs to drive. So they don't give enough time to implement an engagement agenda. That's another problem which all HR colleagues face across organizations. Another is people do not know how to link engagement to business goals. We have business goals, we have engagement, we've seen the engagement data. Now how do I link my engagement data to my business goals? What kind of engagement matrix? How is the linkage of the engagement matrix to the business matrix? Those are some of the problems which actually people across organizations are struggling with, because it's very difficult to actually run an agenda without actually getting a buy-in from your stakeholders. And that's the problem we have today, and we're not able to run something successfully. Now, how do we overcome this kind of problems? How do we overcome these roadblocks? We know now that employees, there are some expectations which employees have, and we know how we have to run our engagement agenda. But there is no buy-in from the stakeholders, and we are struggling with how to actually link the engagement scores with my business matrix and how I actually sell it to the audience. Now, before that, let me look at what are the key, what are the drivers, main drivers, which are basically relevant for engagement drivers for the organization. So we can identify relevant drivers and then actually build our design or action plans around these engagement drivers. And Pick up the engagement driver which is the most highest impact for my organization. Everyone has to see and look at their organization and see that which engagement driver will have highest impact in their organization. Let's look at, for example, I've picked up here the 7 engagement drivers, starting with role clarity. Every employee wants role clarity. They want basically their roles, they want to align the organizational strategy to individual goal alignment should be there. That should be a top-down cascade of the goals. Employees want help to navigate increasingly complex roles. They want to prioritize their work for broader impact on the organization. So they want role clarity. They want to understand how they can impact the greater organizational agenda. That's one important aspect which employees want and is something which we as HR executives or people have to actually work on, and we have to keep in mind when we are working on the engagement agenda. The second is on the career management. Designing a compelling career path is something which an employee looks forward to. Employees need help in terms of working out what kind of realistic and achievable career path I should look at. What kind of career choices should I make? What kind of job should I choose as my next role so that I can achieve what I want to? How is my career path looking like? So there's a constant need for basically career conversations which needs to happen with the employee, helping him, handholding him, and basically guiding the employee, taking him to the next level. What all experiences the employee has to go through so that he can actually move on to the next level. It is not about only moving roles or moving upwards in the career, it's also about horizontal movements and gaining horizontal experiences which enrich one's profile. Then looking at the next piece, which is about performance management. Now, how do we improve our organization's performance? How do we equip our managers to effectively drive performance for their direct reports? Because end of the day, it's so the managers who actually are the face for the employee. Managers need to drive this agenda. There needs to be a constant need for the feedback conversation. Something like a continuous feedback system where the employee actually gets the feedback on an ongoing basis from the manager, from the peers, so that he or she is improving. So that's more of engaging with the employee and helping him get the feedback at the right time, because end of the year feedbacks are now gone era. Most organizations are moving to a continuous feedback system. So how can we actually have a continuous feedback system where the employee is constantly engaged and employees more proactive in organization is proactive in giving feedback and employees proactive in doing course correction in his or her performance. The next is basically about employee networks. When I say employee networks, it's about, again, identifying, which I spoke about earlier also. Every person wants to identify with a particular network, wants to have a group of network, there should be more use of social media in building and leveraging employee networks. And employees want to identify themselves out of network. When you have a hypo program also, if you build a hypo network, then people who are hypos actually interact with each other, high potential employees interact with each other, and then they share their ideas and knowledge. How do we help leaders network effectively across with other leaders in organization? What kind of networking platforms we are creating internally as well as externally? This is how you're basically trying to engage with employees by giving them the right support and network and helping them identify and improve their networks. Employees want to actually improve networks, and because in today's world, you are all connected. But it's more important in terms of having the right network and then leveraging on the network to move the next career steps. And that's what employees are looking forward to. Next is basically having a compelling reward strategy. So it's very important that we design and implement rewarding compensation strategies. How can pay effectively, how can we actually engage employees by having an effective pay? How can we actually show employees that we are having a recognition system which is actually very transparent? So those are the ways in which you can engage employees to define, achieve, and help employees actually achieve, help employees define achievements which are worthy of recognition. So employees should be aware which are the achievements which are the areas they should focus on, how they should focus on that so that they can worthy of appreciation and recognition from their peers, from their managers, from across. The next one is basically about work environment. Now you have to build opportunities to employees to contribute to the business needs. Enable employees to make them, how do we enable employees to make them visible, to help them make a visible contribution to the business goals? Employees want actually that they work and they are rewarded for their work on, and they actually want to understand support collaboration and knowledge sharing. That's what basically employees are looking forward to. Now, it's very important that we have a work environment which is basically suiting the employee. The employee is basically understanding and knowing that what opportunities are lying and basically accordingly working on. So it's very important for building opportunities for employees to contribute to the business need beyond their typical role. So they should know that they can contribute beyond their role. They are not only limited to their current role and organization or current role requirement. They can contribute beyond that as well. The next is about organizational values. It's very important how actually you help our workforce to live in your values. So organization is a set of values and brand. How do actually you help them identify, employees identify with their with the organization's brand, with the organization's value system, so that they actually can work towards the organization's goals. So they can actually contribute to the organization. If they believe in the organization, they can contribute to the organization. So that's again another important aspect which needs to be taken care of. So these are basically some of the drivers, relevant drivers for employee engagement. Now it's very important that if you want to make a successful engagement program, it needs to be built up around one or two of these drivers or two or three of these drivers which are important in the organizational context. Well, all the drivers are important, very important that how do we make a high impact engagement program by focusing on the key important drivers. Now let's see how do we actually build a business case around it. How do we actually create a roadmap to empower organizations to overcome roadblocks? The main important thing is when we create a business case, we demonstrate the potential effect of engagement on the firm performance. That is what we spoke about earlier, is about getting a stakeholder buy-in. It is very important, the first step of the program, that we actually demonstrate the potential effect of engagement on the performance. Due to generate stakeholder interest in the program by communicating. There's a lot of communication needs to happen before the program is put in place and after the program is there. It's very important there's a high engagement. So if firms with high engagement, alignment and agility report higher profitability than their lower performing peers. So it's very important that engagement, alignment and agility is there in place. High engagement is always also associated with high employee performance, retention and customer satisfaction. So it's very important that we have a robust business case in place. Then looking at aligning employees' expectation with the engagement initiatives. We spoke about 5 expectations which employees have in our initial slides, which is the me and the me too, mine and the V Continuum. Then we spoke about what are the relevant drivers which actually help in identify which are the relevant drivers which actually help in creating a high impact engagement program. Taking all this into account, we actually should pick up 2 to 3 expectations and build the engagement initiative around those. And then that needs to be sold to the stakeholders or to the business, telling that what kind of impact can be created through this. Now looking at the third piece, we have built a business case. We have looked at what are the expectations and what are the drivers we are looking at for building the engagement initiatives. After building it, we need to basically have a measurement system in place. It's very important to measure the engagement initiatives, and it's very important that we measure not only based on the current thing, but basically looking at what is there, what has happened in the past. So it's very important that we measure what is the perception of the past events, what is there in the present experience, and what future expectations employees have. And that will give us a more holistic picture of the diagnostics for the engagement level. So if you have a complete diagnostic in place, then it's very important to actually get a stakeholder buy-in and showcase to them how it has actually impacted the organization. So hence it's very important that we actually do a measurement which focuses on 3 aspects: past, present and future. This is how we can actually build a robust engagement initiative or agenda for the organization. I wanted to give an example of one of the engagement initiatives we had actually done in Dr. Reddy's. It actually worked very well for us. We call it People Manager Effectiveness Program. So it's about focusing on effective people managers. Before launching this initiative, actually we did a lot of groundwork in terms of interviewing people managers, interviewing employees in terms of asking them what expectations they have from people managers, interviewing people managers and asking them what they think are their responsibilities, and a lot of group discussions, focus group discussions, and a lot of discussion created around it. So it was more of an involved kind of thing which was started. And then we laid out the 8 expectations for effective people managers, which is basically hire right, induct people well, drive people performance, develop your people, appreciate your people, ensure well-being of your people, manage people transition, and maximize team productivity. So it's very important that people managers are enabled with the right tools and techniques to actually do the people management job which they have been shouldering. So PMAP program was designed to empower the people managers with the knowledge, skill, and understanding to become better people managers. After successful completion of these programs, managers are believed to acquire skills and knowledge to manage their team successfully. They will also be able to strengthen capabilities to drive business impact and change. Now, when we rolled out this program, it's more of a 2 days instructor-led workshop that focuses on sharing concepts and techniques. And the objectives which I mentioned is basically to design, empower line managers with the knowledge, skills, and understanding to better manage people. We built an engagement score around it. We actually ran a survey of people manager effectiveness, and people were asked to rate their people managers. We did a survey. This has been done year on year. This is the 3rd year we are doing the survey. And we've actually seen a change in the score. When people see their score, there's a people manager dashboard which is presented, and the scores are shown to people. So actually there's a change which is happening, and we've got a good adoption of this initiative in the organization. And it has actually worked very well for us. And that's because we actually built a case for it. Then we looked at what are the drivers, how do we actually get about it, and then we did a survey and showed the measurement, how we can measure the effectiveness of the program. And that's how we got a business buy-in around this program. So I thought I'll just share this example because it was very interesting and it worked well for us. And hence, I thought it was a good thing to share with all of you. Next, I thought of actually focusing on what we call, when we started this webinar, we are basically focusing on capturing the hearts and minds of people and how we are actually making more of design-centric, or making a policies which are more focused around employees. So today, everything, not only about policies, everything, even in manufacturing, in any sphere of work which we do, everything is designed keeping employee at the center. That's more about the concept of design thinking. In Dr. Reddy's also, we actually make policies keeping employees at the center and looking at the humanness of the policies. It is very important that the humanness aspect of the policy is kept in mind while working on the policy design. So this is something most organizations have been doing now. I thought of sharing some of these practices like flexibility in workplace and balancing work with home and other needs. This is what today basically companies are looking at, keeping employees in mind and then designing the policies rather than making the policies and then seeking feedback from employees. So, for example, part-time work. Earlier there was a concept of part-time work. Now there's more flexibility which has been brought in. Like apart from half day, making it a 4-day work week or 75% work time. So people can choose the type of part-time work that suits their needs, so that we can have more of people, so there are people in the older generation or people who are working mothers who actually want more flexibility in work time. So part-time work will actually help to basically help them in terms of being part of the workforce as well as taking care of the family needs. Other things are also common, like family care leave, sabbatical which is given for community service as well, as apart from higher studies. Then work from home, telecommuting, and concierge services. These are very common, which is basically helping people balance their workplace and their home needs. And support and parenting, which is maternity, paternity, adoption, and childcare. So this is something many organizations have been doing for a long time now, and now like the government of India has also started focusing on this aspect. And the recent changes in the maternity policy, adoption leave, and child care actually is more forcing some of the companies who are not adopting to this kind of design thinking or adopting to the practice where the policies are being made keeping employees or the humanness in mind, the employee in mind. There are also maternity counseling services which many companies provide. In fact, we provide maternity counseling and we provide adoption and paternity leave, which is actually much more than what the government has prescribed now. Similarly, there's a lot of focus on health and well-being of employees. Companies are offering customized medical insurance plan, then you can actually pay for a top-up and take an additional coverage. You can actually take a dental plan by paying additional coverage, additional pay for the additional premium for it. So today it's not only one offering which is given to all employees, but it's more of a customized offering which employees can go and choose from. Employees have to make a choice in terms of what they need, what suits their needs. Similarly, if you look at wellness programs, companies are working on wellness programs because they're focusing more on preventive healthcare. They're looking at getting the insurance costs down. It's more about engaging with employees, making gamification around around wellness programs so that there is more adoption of wellness programs. And that's again another way to engage with the workforce. The last but not the least is about recognition. Now, recognition also, it's not about just giving a coupon or just giving a monetary cash to employees. It's about creating an impact. It's about creating a lasting impact in the minds of employees. So there are things like gifting experiences, which is actually something which Gift Xoxo brings to the table, and Abhishek maybe will be talking about it later on. And apart from that, more about offering a gamut of choices to the employees through a reward portal, where employees can go and choose what kind of reward package they need, what kind of program they need to opt for, what kind of recognition they need. So they can go and choose from that. That's something which is becoming more common. So companies are actually looking very seriously towards designing policies, keeping employees in the center of it, and that's how they're more engaging with their employees and understanding their needs, understanding what employee needs are, and accordingly structuring, designing policies, practices. That's what I wanted to share today in terms of looking at how we have designed our practices, giving example of Dr. Reddy's, and living this thought with you in terms of how you can build an engagement program which is more robust, which is by building a business case around it and then actually measuring it to the end and showing an impact. It's very important that we create an impact in the minds of the stakeholders, and so that there is a buy-in in running any engagement initiative in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Debashita. It was indeed insightful into how one should approach holistically employee engagement. Now I would like to hand over the webinar microphone to Abhishek. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you very much. And welcome all for the discussion. That was indeed a very insightful discussion from Devasita, and at the end of it, she left at a very good note on how we can give experiential gifting in the rewards and recognition category. Now, a brief about what we do as a company, as Xoxoday. Right. So Xoxoday has been helps people discover places through people. It's basically an experiential gifting company. We have curated one of the largest and most diverse selections of experiences and activities. So far, we have worked with around more than 650 enterprises all over India, and they have been using these experiences for various reward and recognition, engagement, and incentive solutions for their employees. Not only employees, but also for their clients and for the channel partners. Right. So earlier, this whole reward recognition, incentive solution was revolving around more cash-based incentive, which was like you pay out with the salary or extra apart from this. But since we have introduced this concept of experiential gifting in the market, we have seen a lot of people, a lot of corporates shifting towards this experiential gifting, where the gratification with the employees is much more as expected, and we have also seen some measurable difference in terms of holding the attrition, in terms of holding the employee workforce with the corporates. So we at Xoxoday have been analyzing the current workforce scenario for past couple of years, and companies have trust me, companies have never before witnessed such an engaging war of talent, altering economy, and the rise of the millennials. With workforce spanning across generations, such as what Devasita described, like baby boomers, Gen X, and beyond, it has never been more diverse. What I feel the major challenges that drastically has affected business over the period of couple of last 2 years have been focused mostly on onboarding talent, reward and recognition, mapping the employee life cycle, as Devasita was discussing from me to we, the compensation, the engagement policy, and the culture. Most important, the culture at the workplace, right? So in 2006, we have seen a boom of mobile happening, and the year 2016 was year of appification, gamification, and automation mostly. Most of the companies have moved to apps, and they have brought in a concept of gamification in most of the approaches. For example, right from onboarding employees on the uh, uh, in the company to spanning their life cycle with the company. They have gamified each and every aspect of it. So what exactly gamification over here is, like, you can reward each and every activity of employees at the company with some points which can be accumulated over a period of time and then can be redeemed at the expense of when people want it. This can be redeemed against coupon, this can be redeemed against experiences, or this can be redeemed against any cruise and adventure activities, whatever people want to have. Of late, what we have seen is culture has been one of the majorly developed areas with companies. They are adopting the concept of workplace flexibility, personalized approach to reward and recognition, and a more systematic approach to employee well-being. All these points which Devasita covered very beautifully in the past presentation. These trends have impacted the way our workforce is driven, engaged, and motivated in a big way. We have been helping companies appreciate employees and business partners who do great work. So basically, we have our own SaaS-based platform, which works on a very customized nomination-based workflow, which can be customized for each and every requirement. So either you are a small organization or a big organization, the tool is made in a way which is a very modular and can be it's like plug and play module. So this is a SaaS-based reward platform which will help companies, small and large, automate their reward and recognition programs. Right. So getting back to what are the expectations of the today's workforce, right? So based on our analysis, we have figured out few of the common expectations between the masses that have been around ownership, trust factor, inclusive growth, a defined career path, and the kind of work in environment. So today, world millennials expect to be given ownership and enabled to meet professional personal milestones. So each and every person in the company sets certain expectations both for his personal and professional achievement, and those have to match with what company is offering them. This starts right from the time of interview. So basically, when you upload your JD with you know uh, job portals, the kind of JD described over there, people are very very particular about identifying what is the JD and are they happy around that JD, and they keep that JD mind till the point they get on board. So the JD has to match the kind of work. JD, I mean job description has to match the kind of work, the responsibility assigned after one gets onboarded. Not to say the least, today's workforce is very, very sensitive, and I'm sure all of you must have encountered this. Companies have to find out the right medium to establish a bridge of trust. Many companies have the approach of creating bodies of mentors right at the joining. For example, in most of the companies, this task is taken over by HR team most often. But I think this is responsibility of not only HR team but also the managers of the team, or the team heads themselves, right? Now, trust is a key factor for today's workforce. They want an open two-way communication channel. They don't expect to be treated as employees only, but they want to be onboarded with each and every idea of to execution. They want to be seen as partners in the growth of the organization and want to be aligned with the goals and values of the company. So not only that, they expect a focused career path. So they each and every person today who's joining you, they are very very smart in today's world. So they expect a focused career path with a clear plan for both financial and skill based growth, which has to come from the higher authorities. So they need to get a sense of credibility with the company that okay, their requirements have been taken care and they are given the required focus which they are expecting. Now, everyone needs a conducive environment to be able to live up to that potential. So, all every person who joins a company, he has a set of expectation that this is the kind of work culture that I want. This is the kind of environment that I want to work in, and that workforce energy changes from role to role and from person to person, and hence the work environment has to support as an ecosystem. So this has to be completely as an ecosystem. Keeping these in mind, I thought I would share some tips and tricks that could be helpful for the employee engagement activities. So moving to, I would like to share some, 7 selected tips and tricks that could be, taking care for employee engagement. The very first one is the focus of the corporates, focus of the teams must be on the problem solving. So problem solving must be the key. Managers in today's world must make themselves redundant and focus more on problem solving. Managers must let their team take responsibility and drive projects while concentrating on finding ways to make the process more productive and efficient. HR managers must not take on clerical roles and have the efficiency to move on from one problem to another. They have to look at in a way where they can cater to a larger mass than to individual people, but in a way where it gratifies each individual at the company. Now, as I said, in the 2016, focus has been more on application, gamification, and automation. So I think most of the companies today are moving towards automation. Be any domain, if you look at it, automation is the word. So technology must be leveraged in 2017 to streamline all processes, because once we streamline the processes become very clear, they become very transparent, and all the data is available when it is required and when people want it. HR functions uh, such as rewards, recognition, and engagement must be automated. For example, if each company, what we have seen after working with more than 650 corporates, we have realized that each company has their own reward recognition structure, their own pattern in which they want to reward their employees. They have certain values which they want to associate with the reward recognition, making it a part of gamification, where we say that if you achieve this value, you will be given certain points which you can redeem after achieving the threshold with either coupons or with experiences. Employees must have a public access to reward recognition, which must be made public, so they can see who are achievers and who are the performers. For example, earlier it used to have that in team, managers would appreciate one of their peers, and this would only be limited to the people who are receiving the mails. Right now, this has to work like a social platform. You can say an internal social platform where this can be announced, where the entire company participate in celebrating that piece. Right. So the third part I would like to pick up is sentiment analysis, that is mood analysis. So to stay ahead of the curve and see what makes employees happy or sad, managers must use optimized tools. These tools can intelligently note how the employees are feeling using certain emoticons, or you can upload certain Q&A, question and answers, which can gauge the type of feeling people are going through. But if the employee chooses an unhappy emoticon which has been consistent for some time, the employer knows that this issue needs to be addressed. This is important to curb attrition. Right. So to further deep dive in, to explain mood analysis, imagine a colleague or teammate who is feeling disoriented because she or he is not being given enough importance, or her or his ideas are not recognized internally. So this happens quite often with each one of us in any of the companies. Right? So the employee creates a grudge, and the team manager only knows about it during his exit. Right. Most often, people don't open for their grievances with each and everyone. They have a buddy, and with whom they share. Right. What if we can analyze his mood through technology tools and act selectively? Don't you think you can save few resources, cost and hiring pain for the company? Right. So with our platform, we have tried to do one of the mood analysis aspect where we are also rewarding people, for the type of mood they have, right? So our enterprise tool caters to one of these aspects, and these companies are willing to pay and pilot these models. Effectiveness is something which will be measured over a period of time, so hence we'll need to be patient. Right. So as Devasita mentioned earlier, mapping of employee life cycle has to be very, very important, and the process has to be very clear. An employee life cycle maps out the journey of the employee from induction, onboarding, up until their exit, right? Until they are old in the company or they retire, right? So it is important that HR managers understand the employee and they connect with peers and employers. This is a good way to visualize employees and increase engagement, motivation, and chance to build a successful team. Ultimately, a team remains stable when people are all enthused with the idea towards one common goal, right? So that the mapping of the employee life cycle with regards to what their vision is about their career is very important. Now, one of the very important aspects that we forget in day-to-day life is like celebrating the personalization. For example, while monitoring benefits have been the go-to reward option for many organizations, it's time they need to move beyond money and run the mill rewards. Companies have now started giving experiences to their employees as rewards and as a means to engage their workforce. Experiences have been proven to more engaging gifts and have a more personal touch to it. So, today if you are reading through a lot of articles or newspapers, you'll be figuring out that most of the companies are rewarding tours and travels to their employees. Many big companies have also rewarded some luxury gifts, for example, cars and many other items, right? Now, what I feel today, we have the option available in terms of experiences, which are like very small ticket size activities, and these are readily available in the market all around you. So basically, the experiences could be like if you want to go to a vineyard, for example, in Bangalore, there are so many vineyards in and around Bangalore. You can go to the vineyard, you can make your own wine and take a bottle with you at the back. You can do a vineyard tour, and you can get a good whole 1 day experience, and that all can be availed at a very, very optimal cost, which companies can definitely afford. So I think today's the experiences have been proven to more engaging gifts and have a personal touch to it. So basically, this makes sure that employee gets connected more towards company with a human touch, right? Now, the other important aspect is what I call is the concept is ideate, conceptualize, implement. The company must now focus on creating an open source platform that encourages the staff, the people, to come up with newer ideas, strategies that can help solve a current company problem. Many times, what happens, we get stuck with certain situation, and most often, the higher authorities are not able to find the solution. The time is required to get into the among the team and find more and more ideas with them, strategies, and aligning their vision towards the company vision. That is what is meant by simply ideate, conceptualize, and implement. Right. So next but not the least is like peer-to-peer appreciation, which should take the center stage. So peer-to-peer recognition is an important building block that helps improve and build a fantastic company culture. In most organizations, managers often oversee employees and bigger departments when they take up responsibility this big. They constantly focus on making sure that nothing goes wrong, that they may fail to see what is going right. This is where peer-to-peer recognition helps bring a good performing employees to life. The smaller steps like these towards a healthier, happier workplace can make a big difference towards organizations working out today. Right now, most of you would question, right, true, but do many companies in India follow these, right? So to answer, I think if the process becomes showstopper in the companies, then they will generally avoid. The upper management team will avoid, as the Basita was mentioning some time back, right? Engagement is required, but then there's a lot of blocks from the higher authorities. The need of the hour is to come up with an automated tool which can save cost and efforts for the company to implement such processes. So we at Xoxoday Enterprise are attempting such endeavors, and I think many companies have shown willingness to implement this situation, right? So while we have seen significant change in companies' approach towards the workforce, I think there are still few key challenges that have to be addressed. So moving ahead to challenges that we have seen so far while working with this, most of the the corporates, like most often what happens when your company grows, with the growth, people are left behind. So employees are not aligning with the goals of the organization. They miss the values, or maybe there is gap between the employee and the upper hierarchy. What it does, it creates a big gap, which makes sure that employees are not aligning with the goals of the company, and which is definitely not good, right? So many times if issue of people go unheard, they feel okay that the company does not need them, right? Now this gives a feeling of sense of victimization. A sense of victimization covers their minds and focus changes, simply changes. That what is required in such cases is transparency in all actions or policies or whatever processes that are getting implemented. Team need to identify and address this on right time. For example, if I would pick one of the common examples that happen. Let's say certain deductions happen with the salary of an employee, right? He does not open up very often and comes to HR for help, that okay, why this deduction has happened, why this deduction has happened only with my salary. I think if that process is already set very clearly and the communication has happened earlier, this sense of victimization, which will waste his or her lot of time in thinking over it again and again, will can be avoided, right? Now these are all, most often we have seen that these are the major crux of all these problems have been the communication gap, the way the communication happens between the teams, the way communication happens between peer to peer. So while maintaining a healthy communication on emails and chats are helpful, I think sometimes human touch helps. This is pain area with growing organization most often, right? Now what we have seen is like many companies during the growth cycle create a layer of hierarchy. Now because of this layer of hierarchy, that the uh, the flow of knowledge from top hierarchy to the lowest level in the pyramid, that gets lost. I think the concept gets diluted, the vision gets diluted, and the people, the workforce, the major workforce that is there at the lower of the pyramid, they felt left out. They feel left out, and this is what is has happened or is happening with most of the growing organization, which needs to be curbed at right point, right at right time. What also needs to be taken care is at the time of hiring, the right DNA of the people. For example, you as a company head or HR as a HR who is the face of the company, they know the right DNA, the right culture of the company. They also need to involve certain aspects in the interviews which can map the culture with the characteristics of the person, right? Uh, I mean, we can say that this might not be true in all the cases, or and it's not always possible to gauge 100% of characteristic. But I think if we gamify this and we do analysis, sentiment analysis, and use all the tools that we just discussed about, there are a way to capture the DNA and map the DNA of the company with the kind of people we want on board. Now, these are the key challenges that we have seen, which are very, very common with most of the growing organization, right? And these need to be addressed, and these need to be taken care while we grow, right? So, with these, I would like to pick up a couple of examples which we have tried to solve, or we have worked in the past with certain organization, right? So for example, one there was a leading e-commerce firm which wanted a R&R solution. They already had a R&R solution, but it was not well defined, it was not streamlined. So before Xoxoday, there was a substantial waiting time between reward announcement and reward distribution. all because there was no such centralized tool, no centralized mechanism to manage the entire stuff. The rewards dispersal team was overworked and there was occasional misses, which also means that uh, you need to put extra effort in doing that R&R, and you need to invest extra on that on month-on-month basis. The deal amongst employees to redeem rewards was often lost by the time they were distributed. So how we did is like our team got involved with this e-commerce firm, right? And they charted out the nomination workflows, they charted the rewards and recognition values and patterns that they have, and they designed the workflow, the automated workflow, which takes care of entire thing automatically, right? So now how it solves is like people don't need to invest time and they get proper notification at each and every time, and all the teams involved get notifications so that they can celebrate personally in a human touch, right? For example, after implementing Xoxoday, there was instant rewards recognition of employees and reward distribution happened simultaneously, right? Then the dispersal of reward happened automatically. For example, people were happy to redeem the points with the redemption portal that we provided, and the redemption portal had a whole lot of options. So we had, while the focus was always on experiences and activities, we also had certain useful redemption options, such as in terms of gift coupons, which you can redeem your points against coupons of Amazon, Flipkart, or any other company that you want, any e-commerce, any other product that you want. Right, so this is how we streamlined the R&R process at an e-commerce firm. I would pick another example, which is from straight from a leading bank. Uh, Right. So the before we implemented this engagement, so this was mostly for client engagement, right? So R&R, we work in a similar process with this bank. We also work for client engagement. So before Xoxoday, the bank invested a huge sum in procuring prepaid vouchers for clients, and clients were not happy with or did not understand the reward redemption system, because most often they get misplaced. There was no central system where they can go and then download, or they can see the history of transaction history, redemption history, because most of people also believe in reporting structure. So time of the need of the hour was to make a clear cut redemption process, easy redemption, to give a ROI on the redemption process, and then the engage client most with a human touch, with experiential gifting. So post Xoxoday, what we did was the redemption became easy. The clients are finding, so we provided them customized microsites where the clients are finding the microsite easy to use. Clients are readily redeeming vouchers, leading to a high ROI of the program. And engaged clients are spending time on microsites, exploring more redemption options. So what it also does is that there is a lot of branding activity happening between clients and the company, leading bank that I'm talking about, right? So these are some of the cases which we have solved, and like this we have solved many more cases in today's Indian scenario, right? So having said that, we have worked with most of the organization, and they're shifting their state-owned reward and recognition processes to automated process, which we are providing them readily. Right. So to conclude, I think I would just pick on some of the things that are available with us, which can be utilized and can be useful for each one of you. Right. So we have like rewarding catalog with exciting experiences. The data and workflow integration happens readily, so we have well documented approach to do this. Point accumulation happens through reward pockets. There are a lot of survey and campaign management to capture to do a lot of analysis. Some of the things that I earlier discussed. We also help companies with tax saving modules. So basically, today's world, if you're following news, Indian government have put a lot of policies on gifting. So a lot of people come into some brackets. So we help them how the tax can be saved over these modules. Most of the modules that we have are plug and play modules, right? The referral module is completely gamified, so all the points get accumulated and can be redeemed any point of time. And it also depends upon the HR. They can make a threshold point where people can redeem only when they reach up to the threshold number. Data security is of utmost priority for us. So we work with we keep on auditing our system so that the data is secure. That is with us. We customize all the HR policies, and it is completely cloud-based model. We have features like instance peer-to-peer recognition, social rewards, people analytics, health and wellness module, and it can be integrated directly through SSO. So I think I'll end up here, and uh, people can get in touch with me later on regarding if anything required more on this. Thank you, people. Thank you for listening to me, and it was really, insightful for me to share my what we have achieved in India today.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you both, Debashrita and Abhishek, for the great insights. We will now move on to a quick question and answer session. The first question comes in from Daya. He is asking Abhishek. Daya says that Daya is talking about providing financial career paths. He says that it would depend a lot on affordability of the company and the business growth for that year. So in that case, what should be the steps should be taken and how to go about in such an environment?
Right. So, see, there are two approaches to this in today's world. So, for example, there are small companies who deal with sharing small stock options or sharing some share option with their company. So, I think most of the companies in big MNCs also have started doing that approach, which gives them bigger and bigger benefit in long term, not in a short term approach. So, as a financial move, if you look at it, if you can create a at a company level, if you create a pool of stocks that can be shared with the people whom you want to retain over a longer period of time, so that could the stocks, since the stocks are uh, can be redeemed at the value where when they want to take it, so the perceived value of the stocks are much more higher than you can give them a cash reward at this point of time. So I think financial growth increases with them, and you can include this entire discussion or entire part in your CTCPs. So that works very well with most of the organization.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Abhishek. I will now move on to the next question. This one comes in from Prashant. He is asking in terms of peer-to-peer appreciation, can you please help on how to encourage this culture and make it happen?
Right. So peer-to-peer appreciation, nothing but a culture, as you rightly said. Now, this can happen. This can be improved by gamifying the whole process. For example, let's say I encourage my teammate to transfer points or reward his teammate or reward another teammate with certain points. For example, he likes something or that guy helped him in achieving certain goals, right? He can instantly reward certain points. Let's say my teammate has 100 points, right, and that he has accumulated over a period of time. He can give these points to the other person to the other person who has helped in achieving certain goals, right? And this can be completely automated, right? That is where the stickiness comes into the system, where you create such a culture where each and every person starts rewarding each other for certain help or reaching certain milestone. You can also announce it on a portal where you'll show your appreciation towards a candidate, towards your peer, by putting certain cards like wish cards, right, which is automated in the system. So, and I think the time is like we need to adopt to a right technology or a right platform which will enable such peer-to-peer gamification way. So gamification is there.
Yes, Abhishek.
Yeah, so I think yeah, so
Yes, Abhishek, I'll move on to the next question now. This one is coming in from Vikas.
sure.
He is he is asking if we have a high potential program for potential leaders, the rest of the employees who are still in the melting expectations are left with left with a disgruntled feeling. So how do we manage emotions?
Yeah. So I think you need to. So the emotions can be managed with giving making them partner in crime. Basically, that's all. I think you need to at least announce your vision, or at least make them partner in all the activities you're doing, and you keep them posted. So a clear communication. And at the end of the day, when you're celebrating the achievements, celebrating the success, this has to be celebrated with each and every individual in the team, where it is on the upper in the hierarchy or the lower in the hierarchy. And this can not only be something like dinner or cocktail party. This can also be like a small trip to village. It can be a small trip to outside in your city. It can be a city tour, which can give you a connect, which can give you a proper communication with the people. So as long as you're maintaining a proper communication, and you're maintaining stuff like the the rewarded on common ground, I think this issue can be handled.
Yes, thank you so much, Abhishek, for answering that. I will now move on to a question which comes in.
So celebrating the success together, sharing the vision with all the vision, yeah, is the key.
Yes, yes, Abhishek. Thank you so much for answering that.
Yeah,
I
that's
will
it.
now move on. I will now move on to the next question, which comes in for Devashita. Devashita, the question comes in from Daya, and question is that in a volatile environment, is it possible to have defined, standardized, clear, and visible guidelines which work for rewards?
Standard guidelines for rewards. See, rewards is
Yes.
something which is basically shaped based on the external conditions, internal factors, what is your financial condition, what is the external market doing, kind of thing. So you can have a broad philosophy for rewards which can be put in place, which is for years to come. But if guidelines cannot be set, guidelines can be made only for a year. So overall philosophy, overall strategy for the rewards can be something which is a consistent thing which can be followed over a long-term vision, because that's something you've aligned to your long-term strategy of the company. Your reward strategy is something which supports your overall company strategy or business strategy. While the guidelines for year in year can be something which is, some things are very operational, which can be defined. But overall, it depends on the particular year, what kind of year it is, what external market condition is doing. Because today's volatile environment, you cannot foresee what is happening. Looking at, say, an example of currency volatility condition in different markets. Like currency fluctuation which is happening in different markets, or looking at your GDP rates, everything is volatile. You cannot actually predict anything today.
Yes. Yes, Devashita, very rightly said. I will now move on to the next question, which comes in from Pooja. She asks, how far job rotation can help in engaging employees more?
Job rotations, in fact, help a lot in engaging with employees, but it depends on how much of your job rotation can be provided by the company. Because we should now sell, employees want a career path. So career path, we want to achieve something at the end of say a 7 years, 8 years stint kind of thing. And they have to gain different experiences. Experiences can be gained in the current role as well as in moving into different roles. So now what companies, because it's difficult for companies to provide as many rotations. As you say, for example, in every 2 years you rotate a person. It's good to say it, but it's very difficult to implement it. If it can be implemented, nothing like that. Otherwise, it's more about giving more experiences. So in the same role also, you can actually give different experiences to the individual working on short-term projects, and which is quite engaging for the employee. That's something employee actually works on. It's something that's helping him build on his CV. Yeah.
Yes, yes, Devash. Thank you so much for answering that. I will now move on to one last question, as time is a constraint. This one comes in from Bhavna. She says that her question is on recognition. She says that the flip side of a recognition program is that employees tend to associate the award value with the degree of appreciation. The bigger the award, bigger the appreciation, and vice versa. So how do we cross over this barrier and rather award with experiences?
Yeah. So, what we are trying to say basically is the reward value people associate with the appreciation, the quantum appreciation. So what happens is actually it is different for different individual. Even if you give experiences, experiences also are associated with a particular value. It depends on what is your organizational strategy and how you actually want to put it. For example, appreciation. Initially, recognition is more about creating a recognition culture in the organization. And then you recognize, you actually look at who are the people who are standing out. And that's how actually it basically plays on your performance also. So someone who's been appreciated, the person should realize, or should be basically, it's more about communication. How do you communicate the appreciation? It's not about the value, but it's about the intent or the parameter on which the appreciation has been done. So the parameters needs to be set in clearly, and the parameters need to be clearly communicated. Employees should know what are the competencies or what are the events for which they are being appreciated. That is more important rather than associating with the value of the appreciation. Abhishek might like to add to it because the question was also around experiences.
Right. So I think this is something related to perceived value, right? Now the value of the appreciation. For example, this was one of the question asked in one of our clients, that how do we handle such situation. So what we have suggested them, and how it is working nice is like, maybe see, each and every individual are different in a way how they achieve or how they look at the achievements, right? So what we have also done is like, you can start rewarding small achievements. For example, let's say you are accumulating points over a period of time, which is equivalent to total point of one bigger reward value, right? So in that way, the ultimate perception that you can redeem the same option as he can or he or she, the other person can redeem, will negate that feeling to some extent, to certain extent. Now if the same experiences or same gifting same reward can be availed by both the a person, I think that would solve this issue to certain extent.
Yes. Thank you so much, Devashita and Abhishek. I am sure that this must have answered Bhavna's question. And with this question and answer session, we are now going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, we would like to thank our partners for today, Xoxoday. Our special thanks to our speakers, Devashita and Abhishek, for this webinar and the invaluable information that they have shared with us today. I would also like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. Stay tuned, and for many more such exciting sessions, we will be back soon. That concludes today's webcast. Thank you and have a great day ahead.